I mean, just a ton of money. You have to work another job.
I did not start with a ton of money.
Yeah, well, very few do.
Yeah. I already told you the best way to make $1 million brewing is to start with $1 million.
Right.
So,
Right.
And I did not. And I pride myself.
With $2 million?
Yeah, maybe $2 million. Yeah. And I pride myself because I feel like I started this brewery on a shoestring.
Yeah. Hey, travelers, it's another week of the Taproom Takeover podcast, and we're taking over another taproom. We've moved so much further than we were last week. We are still in the expansive city of Altoona, Wisconsin, and we are at Ombibulous this week. So we have Jared. You're the owner, brewer. I hear that brewers are also the janitor, so I imagine you are also the janitor. Yeah, everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
And then we have Tom. Tom is also volunteer hop brewer, hop grower, hop extraordinaire, quality control.
Yes.
Overall beer enthusiast.
Yes. And then, of course, Troy is with us again this week, too. Yeah, I got him to come back. Can you believe that? 2 weeks in a row. What a
Though
deal.
Landon keeps trying to get rid of me.
No. I think Troy's trying to get rid of me, and I keep hounding him. But anyway, so Ombibulous Brewing. Jared, you guys have been around. This is going on 2 years, right? In July?
July 20th, we're our second year.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you're still around. You survived the pandemic.
Yeah, so far I think we have. Yeah,
yeah, that's good.
Every day it's like, I don't know. I wake up, I'm like, what do we got today? But yeah, I mean, so far it was touch and go. But I think things are looking up, and
that's great.
Yeah, we're optimistic that our 2 years is going to be hopefully be better than the first year. I hope. I'm kind of writing off the first year, to be honest. They always say the first year is their hardest, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not even going to talk about my first year. So
right.
We're just going into our first year now, so we'll see what happens.
That was like the trial period, right?
Oh yeah.
You could be like some of those college football coaches that when they start their first year, they call it year zero.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
It's not a number at all. You just move on. So you're coming up on your first anniversary then.
Yeah, right.
1 year.
The first one was like a soft opening. This
Right.
is the real thing now.
Well, what made us get to year zero? Like, why Altoona? Why here? What were some of your thoughts about even opening a brewery?
Well, I mean, I guess for me it started. I mean, I was planning a brewery for quite some time, and kind of just through the planning stages, figuring out, what would be a good model, what would be, how much are we talking, what would I need, is this even something I could pull off? My biggest thing is, I mean, I've been working for somebody else for, 25 years, I don't know, maybe more, and it's just kind of got to the point where I said, maybe I want to do something for myself, and, that way when you succeed, it's on you, and when you fail, it's on you, and, you have control of what that's going to be. And so I started kind of going through that, and it started getting more and more serious. And I would tell my wife about it. She knew about it, but she never took me serious. So one day I said,
Sounds
hey,
like a wife.
Yeah, and so one day I said, hey, you want to come look at a building with me? And she goes, a building for what? I said, well, for the brewery. I mean, I've only been talking about this for 2 years, right? She's like, oh. She's like, so you're serious? And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. So as far as that goes, the building search, honestly, the hardest part about opening a brewery is finding a building.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the worst part. And it's weird because you think there isn't a lot of commercial, like, rentals and real estate stuff out there. I was really, I've never owned a business or had anything like that before. So I was really taken aback by how few options there were. I mean, you always see places that say for rent and whatever, so you think there's going to be all these great options, but there just isn't.
Right.
So I mean, and then you got to find, is it going to be not only a space that's available? Can you afford it? Can you put a brewery in there? Is it going to be the size you need? It always felt like it was 1,200 square feet or 50,000 square feet. Like there was nothing in between.
It's not like you're just opening like a clothing store or something.
Right.
You need to have drainage.
You got to have the electrical. You got to have gas. You got to have the mechanicals.
Does it have 3-phase? Does it have this?
Does it have rolling doors that you can get things in and out of? Otherwise, you have to take things through small man doors.
And then there's regulations as to where they can be physically. So I mean, then you've got all that, and then when we did this spot here because it's close to residential neighborhoods, and you got to get a a use permit. Like you got to make sure everybody approves it and they're fine with it. So there's a lot of factors that go into really finding a building. And then there's other things too that you don't even realize. So if I decide I'm going to rent a building from you, but you own a bar, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
There's all these weird rules underneath these rules, and so I found that to be the biggest challenge, to be honest. And then once we were able to lock in a place, like the rest just kind of fell in after that. So. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, why did we pick Altoona? Because that's where we found a place to be. I mean,
That's a good
honestly,
reason.
like,
No, but that's just as good of a reason as anything else.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be this,
I looked everywhere. I mean, I was looking at Menominee here, there. I mean, my options were open all across the board. And honestly, I'm happy with Altoona. I mean, we're in Fall Creek, so it's super close for us.
Yeah.
The location couldn't be any better. And, working with the city of Altoona was really easy. They really want people in here, and they want to see businesses succeed. So I feel like they're extremely easy to work with.
Boy, it would seem that way. As much as Altoona is really growing.
Yeah, for sure.
And for those that haven't been to the Eau Claire, Altoona area in the last couple of years, when you drive through again, it'll look completely different, especially Altoona. Not Eau Claire so much. I don't know how much Eau Claire wants another brewery, but
I mean, even the
I don't think
highway out
anybody
here,
on this-
I mean, houses, Eau Claire just kind of keeps creeping down the highway here, so you guys are in that kind of that upgrowth area. I'm assuming this is a new building.
This is new, yeah. So this was built, 2 years ago so that was the beautiful thing about it. When I decided to lease this building, it wasn't built yet. So I could say, okay, this is what I need. This is what I want. Put drains here. So you weren't retrofitting things that weren't meant to be a brewery into a brewery. So there, there's all these people I talked to before. That was some of the biggest hurdles, as they get into places, and then you got this budget, right? And then all of a sudden you get in, and it's like, oh, well,
I got to jackhammer up this concrete.
Yeah, or the now they're requiring me to put in this actual structural support for this, or and so I mean there's sometimes so I felt like, though it cost me a little more on the front end, I think, because it was a new building, it kind of mitigated some of those headaches and things that could possibly be unplanned.
Right.
So I felt like there wasn't going to be a lot for unplanned stuff.
Yeah.
Although guess what, there's always unplanned stuff.
Chaos.
Yeah.
It's always lurking.
Yeah. But I felt they did pretty good, other than the pandemic, of really figuring out what was going to be things I would have to worry about.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
What made you settle on the name Ombibulous?
So Ombibulous, I was really, my wife and I were intrigued with Prohibition. We kind of liked that whole idea of, that time period, what all happened, and we really liked kind of the, that 20s, kind of dark wood, that speakeasy feel. Like, that's really what we wanted. So we started looking at names that kind of represented Prohibition, and this was one of the ones, I had kind of a list, and I'm like, well, what do you think? And Ombibulous was kind of the one that really struck us. It's unique. It means, someone who's basically, it was a made-up word by H.L. Mencken. He was an anti-prohibition author. And he made it up to describe himself basically as someone who just likes to drink any kind of alcohol. And I'm like, I can get on board with that.
I can relate with that.
Yeah.
Sounds like this guy's speaking my language.
So I'm like, let's do it. And I mean, the only downfall to the name is no one can say it. And,
Yeah.
So I hear so many different pronunciations. I'm like, whatever, I get
And
it.
it is better than being like, oh, what's the name of the street out here, or what's the name of the river?
Yeah.
We'll call it Altoona Lake Brewing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Windsor Brewing.
Yeah.
That's all right. But yeah, so we went kind of weird and different, but
Yeah,
I
I
like
kind of get that Art Deco vibe going on a little bit,
Yeah.
1920s.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dim lighting, I like it. It's much different than anything else that we have around here. Actually, it's much different than, and I've been to a lot of breweries. Troy's been to more than I have. But, I don't know that many of them have that speakeasy vibe to it, And
that's the thing. And I mean, we were really big on having a space. I mean, I think we went also, we love going to tap rooms and different breweries. And so that was always our thing. And when we went, we'd say, well, what do we like about this? And what
Right.
don't we like about it? And it's
Right.
not just the beer. I mean, there's a lot of great breweries out there putting out great beer, right? But to us, it's like, okay, we have to be more than just great beer. Like, if we'd have started a tap room brewery 10 years ago, I feel like you had a little bit, they had their own challenges, obviously.
They just said usually the brewery was just in the middle, or the tap room was in the middle of the brewery. It's
right,
just like
right. You got pallet racking around there,
they
and
would
people
wheel
come
out
in,
a cart, and we serve beer off this cart.
Exactly. But I feel as there's, getting to be more and more breweries. I mean, over 8,000 breweries in the United States, and it's
Holy
like
crap!
Yeah, something like that.
it's like, you got to be different somehow. And for us, it was like, we want that experience of a place to go that is comfortable. Like, you go to a lot of the industrial ones and we like it, it's cool, but sometimes it feels kind of maybe not comfortable or it's cold, and we're like, that's fine. Let's get something a little more comfortable feeling, where you can,
Yeah.
I don't know, you can come here for anything and just hard day work, and you can relax and you feel.
I think that's the best part of a tap room is when you can achieve that of we are the place people meet for whatever reason.
Exactly.
Not just going out to get hammered or whatever.
Sometimes you just want a beer and a little dish of popcorn and to just,
And a chill space to have it in.
Right. Yeah. And
Maybe I might have a kid with me. But
back when I used to be in the office, I haven't worked in an office in over a year, but, finally you're at 3:00 on a Friday and you're going, I've had enough. And then you take off work, and usually I would come here because it's on the way home. So, but I don't have to go to the office anymore. So that's I still come here, but not as often as I used to, because Fridays were my day. So
yeah. So when you go to start making beers, is there particular styles you wanted to make, or were you like, is there some people love Belgian beers, some people love German beers, or you just wanted to make beers?
For me, there's a lot of breweries that are really, I guess, focused on a certain beer style.
Yeah.
When I got into first brewing and I was a home brewer, I started out on mostly darker beers. That was kind of what I enjoyed. It's what my wife likes, and that's just a lot of what we made.
Yeah.
But I find my palate is kind of like my personality, and I'm all over the board, and so things change daily, right? I mean, I'm never on the same page for more than maybe a couple days, and then so it's like that. It's the same with beer. What I enjoy today may not be what I want tomorrow, and that's just the way I am. So I'm not one of these people that can drink the same thing every day. I need something different. So.
I like having a favorite beer of the day.
Yeah.
And it can change, or a favorite beer of the week.
beer of the hour.
Yeah, beer of the hour. I mean, it can change, and really it's, Jared and I have found that our palates are pretty complementary to each other.
Well, that's gotta be
so
nice,
it helps with me, with development with him is he'll run something by me, and maybe we'll pilot something, and we'll check flavors, and hey, what do you think about this? How can we change it to make it different? What does your palate say about what we did with this beer? So, and then we bounce ideas back and forth off each other. And hey, I'm not the brewer, but at least I can have a little,
Oh yeah.
He's a sounding board
Doesn't
for what.
hurt to talk about
Yeah,
it,
and
for
you
sure.
were telling me a little bit before we started this that you help a lot with the pilot batching and stuff, and the people listening may not know this, but like owning a brewery, usually it's a lot of work, and it's most of the time not your only job. So, Jared, you actually work a different job too, right?
I do, yeah. So I'm a nurse, pediatric nurse in Minneapolis. So.
Yeah, and that's
Oh, wow.
that's
Jeez.
an awesome job too. That's
Yeah.
You have to drive to Minneapolis every other day.
Well, I mean, right now I'm per diem, so it's kind of my schedule's all over the board. So sometimes, it'll be 3 days in 1 week and then nothing the
Right.
next week. So it's just whatever. And so that's the hard part about them brewing is I got to try to figure out how to get my brew schedule within that schedule, right? And then it's not just brewing the beer and being off. So it's like now I got to think, okay, I'm going to hop this thing on day 3.
right.
Yeah.
Am I going to be here?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be at my other job? You know
Right.
what I mean? It's not like I'm working down the road in Eau Claire where it's like, yeah, I'll just pop over here and do this quick on my way home or whatever. So
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's a lot of nights I'm pulling in here about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I come in and I do things and do some check emails and book work and order whatever I need to order and go back home. And so, so a funny story about that is when this place was being built, I would come in 1:30 in the morning. I'd roll in here and check things out to see what's progressing for the day. Oh, they poured the slab, they did this, they did that, and the Altoona Police Department got to know me really well because I'd be sitting down here and all of a sudden they'd see him pull in and they're looking at me,
Hey,
and
what
they're
is
like,
this guy doing?
yeah, who are you? And Yeah, so I was like, well, I said, here's the story, and I'd tell him this story. I'm wearing scrubs, and I'm like, I work in Minneapolis, but I'm here, and I just got done, and I'm just, it sounded like the most hokey story ever. I'm like, if I don't get tasered or arrested here, I'll be really shocked. So, but no, I met several of them that way, and I was just happy that they were here watching over things.
Yeah,
So,
right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the point I wanted to make about working two jobs, I think a lot of people, I mean, we've gotten asked before in the past, like, how is it, just having a job, just traveling to different breweries and interviewing people? And I went, no, this is a hobby.
Yeah.
And if you can actually make it as a living, good job. But very few people do that.
Right.
And I mean, brewing is the same way. Like, unless you started with a ton of money coming into it, and I mean just a ton of money, you have to work another job.
I did not start with a ton of money.
Yeah, well, very few do.
Yeah. I already told you the best way to make $1 million brewing is to start with $1 million.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I did not. And I pride
start
myself.
with $2 million?
Yeah, maybe $2 million. Yeah. And I pride myself because I feel like I started this brewery on a shoestring budget. I
Yeah.
really did. It was a pretty small budget. I mean, from what the research I've done and what other people paid, and to get breweries going this size, it was
How big is your brewery?
pretty low. It's a 3-barrel brewery.
3-barrel?
Yeah. So I mean, we're like
3-barrel fermenters, or do you
Channel.
double batch?
I have 4 3-barrels, and then I have 1 6-barrel.
Nice.
Yeah, the only thing I make in that is the bee's knees because everybody loves it, and they just keep drinking it and drinking it.
It's
So
the
I'm like,
bee's knees. That's why everybody
Well,
drinks.
yeah,
Was that the beer you intended to be your flagship, or is that just what people have spoken?
that's a good question because it wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it. I knew it was a nice, easy drinking lager. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it, but it wasn't necessarily the beer I thought was this is going to be the one that's going to
Take
knock it out
off,
of the.
yeah.
And it's interesting because it was the first beer that I ever brewed in the 6-barrel fermenter, and why I don't know. I did it in there. The rest of them I did in the other ones, and I've never brewed anything else in that fermenter. It's pretty much always filled with the bee's knees,
Wow.
and that's the way it is. And I was looking the other day. I think I was telling Tom. I was looking. You can see like I've got the Clover, terminals, and it tells you what you're basically selling and what beers are. It's the bee's knees is always just like, so you look at it and you're like, that's just amazing. Like you don't realize.
To me, that's always like the most interesting part of a brewery is what they think is going to be their best beer, and what the
What the customers tell you.
what the
is.
customers dictate. But there's also a little bit of that, it's oftentimes your best drinking beer, the easiest drinking beer
Yeah.
you got is the one that people, you can never underestimate a good drinking beer.
It's a weird thing. I mean, there's what you want to brew, and then there's what people want to drink, and it's just. I mean, I had no idea that was going to be our flagship, and it is, and it's people's choice. It wasn't what I marketed it or shoved
Right.
down people's
Yeah.
throat. It was
Right.
just what spoke to people, and I think because it's easy drinking, so it's one of those beers that people come in and they're like, you get the people that are like, well, what do you have that's like Coors Light or
Yeah.
Miller, and I'm like, well, try this, and I'm like, well, I usually tell them I have nothing that's like that, but try this and see what you think of it. This isn't hoppy, it's not dark, it's not, so maybe it'll be something that'll fit your palate. And
Right.
then,
It's a good transition beer for people that maybe haven't gotten into the more crafty beers.
Yeah.
Where it's a good transition beer to get somebody started on it.
Yeah.
A craft beer.
Or if nothing else, you can come in here with your family and be like, your dad's like, I don't want it. You're like, oh, he'll take the beanies. I'll take the Russian Imperial, please.
Yeah.
That's-
It's kind of crazy that we're still talking about. I mean, the advent of craft beer is. I mean, we're years down the road, and we're still talking about people transitioning from, big beer to craft beer. And do you still see a lot of that in the tap room? A lot of people.
There's still, it's amazing the amount of pie there is still out there
Right.
of beer drinkers that are just drinking basic domestics.
We can just convert the seltzer
Yeah.
drinkers.
It's crazy.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I don't know what the statistics are. I haven't looked lately, but I know at one point or when I started this, it was about 12% market share. I
yeah,
think is what,
not
I mean,
even,
it's
yeah, probably, or
it's
just
ridiculous.
above.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. I mean, that was one of the things I told my wife when we opened this place. I said the 2 questions that like I didn't want to hear any more of is, you know what you should do? That was always that one. I guess that's not a question, but that was always
Yeah.
like, do you know what you should do? Or this is what I would do. And I'm like, yeah, well, you should
Go
go
ahead and
open
do
a
it.
brewery. Like,
Yeah.
give it a whirl. Let me know how it works for you. And then you always get well, I don't drink craft beer. I drink X, like what do you
Yeah.
got? I mean, it's a lot. You get a lot of people,
Oh,
which
yeah,
I
for
think is
sure.
kind of awesome because, I mean,
At least they're coming in the door. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
your chance to try to
Right.
get somebody converted over and to show them what craft beer is all about, because a lot of people are used to what, and this isn't a knock on macro beer, but I mean that's what their idea up to this point has always been a beer. That's what my wife says. It's when she says, "Well, it tastes like beer," and that's what she means by it tastes like beer. And I'm like, well, it all tastes like beer. Right?
It always drives me crazy.
Well, some of it.
So, yeah.
When I was
anymore.
pouring craft beers and people were like, "Oh, I want like a real beer,"
Yeah.
aka light beer, and I'm like, light beers have only existed since like 1980. Like when you want a real beer, like stouts have been around way longer than your
Yeah.
Bud Lights have been.
Oh, porter. That's a new style, right? No.
No.
Here, let me tell you some beer history.
You're
Buckle
the,
up.
Sometimes I just want to be like, you're the weird one here. You're the one that's drinking the not real beer. Yeah.
Should we talk about the difference between a stout and a porter then, as long as we're going to talk about that?
No, go ahead.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I
I would
always
love-
love hearing
No,
people's
I don't-
definitions.
No. I don't want to actually talk about it. 'Cause I don't think there is a difference, to be honest with you. But,
I mean, at this point,
those are lines that have been blurred,
I
I
think-
think. But I mean, there's a history out
mean,
there somewhere. But
pale ales, IPAs,
Yeah.
American IPAs versus like we have blurred every line. You know, they're putting lactose in beers now.
Yay,
Like,
America.
I guess my point is you put 3 beers in front of me and ask me to determine what's a stout and a porter. I don't know if I could do that.
Unless it's a brewery that's really following the traditional
Yeah.
way of brewing it,
Yeah.
then you could probably even look at it.
At one point,
Just look at
Correct.
it and be able to know.
Correct.
I know I've told this story before on various our media stuff, but forgive me if you've heard this. But listeners at home, that is. I was trying to become a beer judge at one point. I'm like, oh, this would be a great thing to do, become a beer judge. And then I did 2 judging competitions, and I realized all you do is you sit down with the style guideline, and then you read it, and then you drink, and you're like, nope, yep. I'm like, well, that's not what I'm in this for.
Right.
Like, just because you match this paragraph, you know,
Right.
like, is this a good beer? You know,
Right.
is this better than this beer? And then you're like, never mind. You know, it's too.
That's why I was never big on competitions, because
it kind of takes the fun out of it.
it really is just meant to be what is stylistically most true. And so
Yeah.
you can have a beer that's fantastic,
Yeah.
but if it's not true to style, it's not going to win, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
So and that's that's unfortunate, because it's like, well, you know, sometimes they get deflated. It's like, oh, my beer wasn't good, it didn't win. Well, no, it doesn't mean it wasn't good.
Yeah,
It
then you
just-
go to like 200 breweries, and there comes a point where you're like, you know what? Somebody makes like a smoked Oktoberfest. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is refreshing to have a smoked Oktober. I've been drinking Oktoberfest all year. You know, something different finally. You know?
right.
The artistic.
That's where the
value.
artistic side for sure
Right.
comes in.
Right, and I see with Jared, and if you look at a lot of his stuff, and he's not using the same yeast. He's not using the same this, the same that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to make each beer different.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
So that he covers the different styles, in his artistic ability.
It's your
in what he
take on
wants.
what that
Right.
would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what's refreshing when I come in here, and is that I can have so many different styles that are done in his way. That that he and it speaks to my palate, because each one's different. It's not the same yeast. It's always a different yeast. It's a different hop.
That's the fun of craft beer.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's it's the conversions of science, art, and history. So it's like, how are you gonna spin this? It's your turn.
And I think that's sometimes that's what's lost when maybe we forget, like when we go into a place, that's their interpretation of what it is, and you may not like it, and that's okay. But it's just like you had said, art. You may go into it, and I mean, if you're not an art person, whatever, but you may not like this certain piece of art, but that other one really catches your eye.
Don't have to like every band.
Yeah, it's the same way. The beer that in one place, there might be a lot of people that love that beer, and you may not. But you may go into another place and you really love that beer, and a lot of people that you're with don't like that beer. It's
That
every palate is different.
That being said, what are your guys' favorite beers that you've made here thus far? There's a beer that you were just like, this was my favorite.
Man, that's tough. So I guess even
Well,
go
we
back.
asked the tough questions here.
It is a tough question. I mean, to go back a little bit too, like you asked my favorite, and I guess I get off on a tangent. I apologize.
Oh.
Just
Hey.
rein me back in if you have to.
This is the
yeah.
home to tangent.
I'm the tangent man.
This is my ADD kicking in, so I will be off on.
You're amongst friends.
So, so when you ask about, I want to have a wide variety, a wide style of beers, because
Yeah.
what I want is that I want a group of 5 people to be able to come in here and to sit down, be comfortable, and all be able to find something they like to drink, right?
Yep.
So I don't want one person that's like, well, I just like IPAs, and it's like you go, well, it's like this place is good for IPAs, or I only like dark beer. I really want to try to find something that everybody can do. So that's kind of where I was with my beer, and like I said, it changes day to day. But man, my favorite beer. So that's, you know what I'm gonna do is, hey Tom, what's your favorite beer? And then I'm gonna think about it.
Punting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be biased on that favorite beer.
Oh, I love bias.
That's okay.
I'm going to tell you exactly what my favorite beer was.
That's why I threw this to you.
Right? 'Cause you knew my answer.
Probably. I kind of feel like my wife's asking me like what day we got married now and what's our favorite color. So
All right. So my favorite beer, and I am biased because it was my hops in that beer,
yeah.
is going to be the 14 binds that we did last year.
Okay.
That was
I remember
that
that
was
beer,
a
yeah.
wet hop.
Ooh, love a good wet hop.
Now, this wet hop was a lot different than most wet hops you're going to get. Most places, when they do wet hops, they just take the hops, throw them in a bag, and they're whole cone.
Right.
And they throw them in the kettle, and all the good stuff on the inside never really touches the beer.
All the lupulin.
All
Yep.
the lupulin
All the
inside.
lupulin.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So what we do,
Give me those alpha acids,
yes,
right? Yeah.
we grind them up, and we throw them in.
A fresh grind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the flavors and the oils made what that beer was.
Yeah.
And it was totally different. It wasn't grassy at all. And a lot of your wet hop beers get grassy.
Get a little
This-
chloroformy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this had a different sweetness. I mean, yes, we had some caramel malts in it to help balance some of the oils and stuff.
How
but-
dare you balance your beer?
Yes. And we didn't want it to be overly sweet. We didn't want it to be really dry. We wanted it to be a nice balanced malt hop, not too bitter. I think we could probably bump the bitterness a tad this coming year.
yeah, we decided it probably
Yeah.
could be balanced a little more.
A little
but-
bit more.
But it's
Yeah.
interesting to, to kind of, I do agree that was an awesome beer. I enjoyed that one. And to go back 1 year before that, his hop farm's new too, right?
Pretty
so that
new,
was your
yes.
second year. And so we didn't have a lot of hops that we could use the year prior. So what we decided to do is we just made a couple pilot batches. And we said, let's do something different. So we did one, everything was the same, but we did one that was with wet hops, and then we used dried.
One that we had dried.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we wanted to see the difference that it created, and people enjoyed it. We put it on tap so they could try them both.
Yeah.
And people really liked it, and people did notice a difference. And the difference was the sweetness.
Was
I
the-
think was the biggest
right.
thing that we pulled away from it.
So
And
by
a little more aroma.
Yeah, a little more aroma. The different when you dry a hop, obviously you lose some of the oil, and some of it gets oxidized, and it doesn't taste the same. Fresh hop, straight, and then when you grind it, you do get a vegetal sweetness from the hop matter itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that doesn't ferment out because that's
Wow.
not fermentable sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it ends up with a different sweetness.
Different kind of sweet.
Right,
Yeah.
and then I'm not getting any of these grassy flavors because I'm just boiling the outside of the hop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've created this beer that is a totally different wet hop experience.
Ah,
Okay.
that's craft beer at its finest right there.
Right.
Yeah.
So this year, the acre hops that we have, we're going to be pushing it pretty hard. So we're going to have quite a bit of hop.
Nice.
We are looking at pelletizing too,
Okay.
but we are going to be doing multiple wet hop beers this year.
That's awesome.
That's our intentions and our plans.
Spoiler alert, the wet hop
Spoiler
party is
alert.
Yes,
awesome.
the wet hop party in the fall.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to that.
That's a good spot to stop, pay our bills. We got a sponsor that we got to advertise for, and then when we come back, we're going to talk to Tom a little bit more about his hop farm because, believe it or not, we've never actually had a hop farmer on any of our media before. I don't believe.
Oh.
Not a podcast, not
Now
a vlog,
you're in
not
that
an
seat of
episode,
heat,
not
sir.
anything. Yeah, so you're the first one.
pressure's
Tom.
on.
Yeah, the pressure is
And
on.
you
Yeah.
are now representing all hop farmers.
Not really, because you're the bar. Like, I have to go against other brewers. So they're just going to be like, that must be how all
No,
hop
yes.
farmers
Set-
are.
Great
set that,
point,
Set
URG.
that bar high.
I'll make sure it's pretty low. We're good.
I mean, let's get some like Olympic style pole vaulting going on here, high levels.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. All right, we'll be right back, everybody. Stay tuned. This podcast is sponsored by Grazie Aveda Concept Salon and Paradise Massage, where whole body care is their specialty. Now offering massage, nail, and hair care services tailored to everyone's individual needs. They're conveniently located at 4638 Gulf Road in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, or find them online at graziesalon.com. And we're back. We're going to talk about hops, something that we hardly ever talk about, I think, on any of our media, whatever video podcasting. I don't
Technically speaking, you don't need hops to make a beer. You can make a gruit, which is a beer that's
Right.
made without hops. But
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I kind of like the hops.
I think we've had one gruit beer.
Yeah, I mean they're a little harder to come by. There's
Yeah.
a reason why hops have taken over. They go really well.
Yeah, you can use spruce tips or elderberries or whatever.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds.
I mean, we got a decent amount of spruce up in this area.
I'll stick with hops.
I mean, that could be a cheaper way to make beer here. Just go out and start harvesting trees. you know.
Right?
Yeah, Christmas trees.
Christmas trees, pick them
Yeah.
up on the
Go
side
pick
of the
'em up,
road.
folks.
Yeah. It'd be the winter special.
The winter, the leftovers. Yeah.
So Tom, you're the hop expert amongst us. How
Not
does-
spruce.
Not spruce. Yeah.
Actually, we do grow Christmas trees.
Do you?
Oh,
Well, there you go.
I
So-
think I might have just gave. You guys can have that idea. That's all yours.
I mean, if times get tough.
If times get tough and the hops aren't so
You
good,
can-
we've
yeah.
got Christmas trees for backup.
We got some Christmas trees. Don't worry, guys.
We'll brew a West Coast style. Real piney.
Real piney.
No, I had one in Alaska that they used spruce tips, and that was actually pretty good. I had my doubts, but it was really good.
You know what my grandpa George always used to say? When life hands you lemons, shut up and eat your damn lemons. So
So how does one become a hop farmer?
Long story. So my father-in-law had a near-death experience and came out of it and decided that he wanted to do something different and wanted to set the family up with something that was using the land.
Yeah.
So, and he decided that we're going to do hops. At the time, I enjoyed beer.
Yeah.
I was a craft beer guy.
I've been known to enjoy a pint from time to time.
Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, hey, what do you think about growing some hops? Like, I know nothing about hops, but hey, I guess if you're in, I'm in.
Yeah.
So we started going to some hops conferences, doing a lot of research. We put in 15 plants our first year. That would have been, 2016, I think it was, 2016.
Okay.
Put in 15 plants. We had 5 Cascade, 5 Centennial, and 5 Columbus.
Oh, the 3 C's.
Yep.
Love it.
So we just wanted to just see what we were in for, and so we started with those first year. Second year, we added more Centennial because the Centennial did the best. So then we expanded a little bit. I think maybe the second year we maybe had 50 plants total, and then the third year we decided that we were going to try all different kinds. So we ordered rhizomes and planted.
Oh,
Probably-
probably he did some Sriracha A's. Lena loves those.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, no. I'm pretty sure I couldn't sell that.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Nothing makes Wayne more unhappy than someone pouring him a Sriracha A's IPA.
That'll be a story for when we're not on the podcast.
Right.
It's a long story too.
So we did at our peak of our test plotting, we had a dozen varieties. And what we really found is that the Centennial that we had for our climate grew the best.
Yeah.
Centennial's also just like a beautiful workhorse hop.
Right,
Like,
it is.
You're never sad with a Centennial.
You can bitter with it, and you can aroma with it, and it's just a great all-around hop. Put it in a lot of different kinds of beers, light beers, dark
Sure.
beers, malt bombs. I mean, you can put it anywhere, and it works good. So, anyways, we came to a conclusion in our business, and we only had like a 1/4 acre test plot, and we came to a conclusion that hey, we made a decision, we're gonna do a Centennial expansion, and so all right, we're gonna take as much rhizome off what we have and plant. So we had plenty of poles, and we have a truck for setting our poles. So we set poles.
Real quick, Tom, for those that don't know, that you can divide up the
Right.
roots of the plants, right?
Right,
So-
I can propagate off of an existing plant some of the root and replant it, and it'll
There you
grow.
go.
I
Yeah.
think, and even
Rhizome.
take even back a step further. How big is your hop farm? Because I think people don't realize how big a hop farm can and cannot be, and how much do you yield from that amount of space?
So last year was our first year of our acre expansion. So we only had a 1/4 acre before then, and that was all test plotting to try to figure out. And it takes 3 years for a hop plant to be mature.
Unless
where
you
you'll-
keep mowing over it like I do.
and then you have
You're
no
8 years in and you still don't get a good harvest.
no harvest. Right.
Continue though.
So with the hops is at year 3, if they're well taken care of and they're fertilized, and they don't have a lot of fungus, downy mildew, powdery mildew. If they don't have a lot of disease and you take care of them and you spray them,
Yep.
that you can actually get a very nice harvest off of the plants. So we expanded last year, and we decided to do it was 2 rows. They're 450 feet long, about 125 plants per row. So that was our original intention, was to do about 250 plants expansion, about a half an acre, and put an irrigation system in, and put the poles and the trellis system with the cabling in to support all that. So we got that first set, 250 plants.
Wow.
2 poles, 400 or two lines of poles that are, 450 long, 450 feet each. And so did that one weekend and planted all of our rhizomes. And it's kind of interesting because we ended up doubling that. So we got that put in, and then my
I mean, the
my
hop
good-
is kind of like a weed.
yeah, I mean, they grow fast. They're
Yeah.
pretty hardy.
Yeah.
But Jared's like, hey, you got all these poles over here. How come you don't put them in and put some more hops in?
Valid point.
Yeah, valid point. Yeah.
I'm like, Jared, really? I mean, we just expanded like 3 times what we had, and now you're saying double that? He's like, well, you got the poles right there. I mean, we could throw it in. We're good.
Yeah, what you don't know about hop farming is it's really easy. I was like,
That-
just do it.
Pretty much
It's
everybody.
like growing asparagus. It just
Yeah.
kind of goes
Right,
up and down,
it'll work.
right?
I'm like, shit, how hard can it be? Can I say shit?
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
say
you
that?
can.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
you can most certainly say shit. If
Yeah.
you couldn't,
Okay.
I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, Troy. Yeah.
All right.
So Jared's in my ear, and he's like, hey, yeah, you got those poles over there. You should put them in there. I'm sure we can get some more rhizomes off the. So we had purchased rhizomes that we
Yeah.
put in.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, why don't you just grab them off them plants down there? They got plenty of rhizome. Throw them in there. I'm like, all right, man. All right. As long as you're available next weekend, we'll do the same thing we did this weekend next weekend.
I was
Sure
going to say,
enough.
to be fair, I helped.
Yes.
I helped put the poles
Well,
in.
Right.
there
That's
you
a
go,
gentleman
yeah.
move.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
I
I'll
mean,
give you that.
So we went from having 2 450-foot rows at 250 plants to doubling that the next weekend, and we put in 4 rows of they're 450 foot long, and there's roughly about 500 plants.
Wow. That's crazy.
So we went from just being test
And
plotting
the crazy,
to
you said that's still an acre though, right?
that is an acre,
That is-
pretty close to an acre.
Yeah. So it just shows that you don't need a ton of acreage to grow hops.
No, it helps having the right kind of soil.
Oh, for sure.
Sandier soil is a little bit harder to deal with.
So you guys got
So what you're saying? There's not a lot of hop farmers in Nebraska.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to grow them down there.
If you don't need sandy soil, I got acreage down in Mondovi. That's all just topsoil.
Right. We have clay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in a low area. The lower it gets, the more wet it is. So we actually kind of moved our hop yard off of the bottom where it was wet and moved it up kind of on a hill. And we irrigate and fertigate. Actually, we had fertilizer with our irrigation, nitrogen mostly.
Yep.
Because the hops really love nitrogen.
Sure.
But we do irrigate, so I'm out there every other day in the summer if we're not getting rain, and we fill totes, and we actually have a battery-powered irrigation system that pumps a drip line and waters our hops.
Wow. Okay.
So you're serious about it now, is what you're saying?
Well,
And when-
I'm kind of deep enough where I have to be serious. It's not a hobby anymore.
Do you guys have an idea of what kind of terroir you're dealing with here? Do your hops, your centennials, come more off earthy, citrusy? What kind of terroir for people who don't like? So in wine world, that means like your wine in this area because of the soil being terroir being a French word for earth. You get certain flavors, even though you have the same kind of rhizomes, you can get different flavors depending on what soil. Do you have an idea what kind of terroir you were dealing with?
With the last year's hops that we had in, They weren't as citrus as maybe real commercial would be. They had a light pine to them, little floral light pine, some citrus, but maybe not as citrus as what some of the real commercials are.
Further west,
Right.
perhaps.
But those were really young plants also. Those were first-year plants.
Sure.
So as these plants mature, I'm sure the profiles are going to change, and the flavors are probably going to become more mature flavors. We had some really nice cones last year. I like nice cones. Just going to put it out there.
I feel like that should be a T-shirt.
Are we still talking? I told him that.
Yes.
Didn't I? I
Yes,
said,
we
you
have
have
nice
small dog
cones.
hops and we have nice cones. And he
Yeah,
said his
nice
wife
cone,
wouldn't have
IPA
anything
or-
to do with it or
Right.
something. So,
And that's why we have wives.
yeah.
It's not a
Talk
shirt
us out
that
of bed ideas?
Yeah, they bring us back in. They reel us in.
it's not a shirt that you wear out all the time. but-
Right. I mean, it's.
Well, I would because it's my business.
Literally, we made shirts that says "Tapping the Midwest."
Yeah.
that's
And
for
your
church.
wife even wears
She-
that shirt.
Yeah, she wears it
Yeah.
proudly. Mind
She
you.
made it, I think. Yeah.
Also, I mean, let's not base like average people on my wife though. Like,
Yeah. Right. Well,
My wife has one that says "back that glass up," so I don't know why she can talk
I
about.
feel like our wives would probably get.
Yeah,
along.
I mean, it's like you're gonna tell me what to put on a
yeah.
t-shirt?
My wife wears a day drinking shirt. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Beer ain't just for breakfast.
Yeah.
So with the cones, the more they're fertilized and taken care of, and you can control the funguses, the cone quality is better and they're larger and they have better lupulin. So this will be our second year with that 1 acre expansion. We did purchase a new orchard sprayer, so
Oh.
we'll be able to better.
Such a farmer thing
yeah.
to say. Like, guys, I just got this great sprayer.
Yeah,
for
it's
my
great.
Everyone else is like,
What?
What's that?
I've been there. Everyone's like, cool. That's neat. And you're like, I gotta see this.
You know,
You
and
gotta
I
see
mean,
it.
that even goes to when you were talking about how big is the farm. You know, when you talk about acre, there are
Doesn't sound like much.
there are a lot of city people that go, so acre. How big would you say that is?
Oh, quite a football.
Football field.
football
Yeah,
field.
that's what I always
Right.
tell people.
Football
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
Pretty small compared to the corn and bean operation.
I mean, I know how big it is, but
Yeah.
there are a
But
lot
the-
of people. I grew up out in the boonies, man. That's you want to talk about acres. That's all we talk about. Yeah.
But we are actually once we get the Centennial more established and kind of we're actually this year we should have a pretty decent harvest this year.
Nice.
We're gonna push it hard. We're gonna fertilize and push them hard and see what they can do this year. That way I can supply Jared with wet hop for the wet hop party and
You know, for the longest time, Wisconsin had a blight in the soil or whatever, so there hadn't been hop production. So I feel like we as a state and our brewers as a state are behind on the wet hop trend. You go out West Coast in the fall, wet hops are everywhere.
right.
In Wisconsin, it has never really taken off, so it's just exciting that you guys are doing a wet hop.
And as far as like hop growing, I mean, in Wisconsin,
It's coming back.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
coming back.
that's
There's
good.
there's quite a few growers.
Took a 100-year hiatus, but
right?
And a lot of what you know about the history on the hops is at the time there wasn't the chemicals to
Yeah.
be able to control the fungus.
yeah,
And-
fair
and
enough.
And it's really, really difficult.
I'm also assuming we have stronger hop plants. that have been
Genetics
bred.
genetics
Yeah,
is
yeah.
part of it also. Yes. Genetics makes a difference. Fungicides make a difference.
Yeah.
So we have a very rigorous spraying program schedule.
You should let
and
us know when you're doing your hop harvest. We'll come
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, we'll come
We'd be
in.
glad to have you.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Check it out.
Not trying to plan things during a show here, but
Right.
Oh.
Did hops die out around Prohibition? Is that something in Wisconsin? I thought I
Well, there was,
but I wasn't sure.
There was a lot of disease issues in the early 1900s with the hops in Wisconsin, and a lot of it has to do with our weather patterns and what our area is
Our
like.
Unpredictable weather.
Right,
patterns.
right. But it has to do with a lot of the humidity.
Sure.
sure enough.
The humidity it really drives a lot of the fungus growth.
Great
Yeah.
for macerating like whiskey. Terrible for hop growth.
Like out in Yakima, they don't deal with the kind of
Straight dry,
humidities.
yeah.
they don't deal with the humidities
Oh,
that we deal with.
interesting.
Right.
But they do irrigate, but
Yep.
they don't deal with the humidities that we do.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
they don't have the disease issues that we do here in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, typical what we see around here is a lot of the funguses.
And it's funny you mention that because, for your organic people out there, I mean, everybody likes a good organic product with
It's
less
very
and less.
difficult to do.
But I've talked to actually some hop farmers that have come in here and that were organic. They're like, we just can't make it work.
Yeah,
It's so
Well,
difficult.
and I mean that's probably a good jumping off point to talk to people about if they're concerned about chemicals and stuff being in their hops and their beer.
Right. So there's a lot of regulation around what you can spray and what you can do and the lead times for the different chemicals. So we keep records on that, and we're very adamant about when we spray, our pre-harvest interval, how close can we spray before harvest.
Yep.
We're very selective on what chemicals we can use and when we use them.
Sure.
And if we can go with a natural deterrent, maybe for pests,
Yep.
we will go that route instead of using actual pesticides. It's just better all around. So we are very, very conscious about what we put on our hops, and we only do it when it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
So we put as little on as possible. So yeah, that's what we do with our hops.
And I think that's good for people to know. And like I said, we've never talked a lot about hops before, but
Right.
it is such an essential part of beer.
Right.
And
The other thing with the hops that we test plotted barley also.
okay.
So
Yeah,
we
nice.
we have determined that we can grow barley. We just don't have a
Well,
contract to
How
do
near
it.
is the nearest cornfield? I was always told you can't grow barley next to corn.
The nearest cornfield was probably from our little test plot that we had. I think we had about a 1/4 acre test plot of barley, and the nearest cornfield, I think the year that we planted it, everything near it was all beans,
Oh, nice.
soybeans. So the closest corn was probably at least 800 feet across the road.
Is that a cross-pollination thing? Help me out.
Yeah, no. So I grew up on a farm. I've been around farms my whole life, so I can't help but get into the agricultural side of beer. And there is a certain insect that comes along with corn that just wreaks havoc on barley.
So with the barley, barley is typically Minnesota, western Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota,
yeah.
Kansas,
Yep.
maybe Nebraska.
Idaho.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's typical where you'll see most of your barley, and that's where there's a small barley market in Wisconsin.
Yep.
It's really catered to providing Wisconsin barley to contracting with brewers.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we can do it. We've proven that it does grow well, and it's really nice barley. Just a matter of the problem is where do I get it to get malted, and
Sure.
who and
Right.
what at what price point can I put that barley out there and contract it and get it malted to what the brewer wants.
Yeah.
So
And that's a whole nother avenue we could go down.
I got
Right.
ideas
Yeah.
for you, but we can talk about that.
Yeah,
off
we
air.
can talk about that off here.
You got my brain spinning,
For
but
those
we'll give you a-
interested in malting, though, there are some malting places around us in Wisconsin, Minnesota. With COVID and stuff, I don't know that you can tour them anymore, but it's something interesting to look up. I mean, especially if you're into the process of knowing where your beer comes from. It's a lot more detailed than just going into the brewery and going, yep, I just threw some stuff in the
it's
tank
agriculture,
and we mixed
it's-
it up and we made beer.
your beer gets grown.
Yeah.
Your
Oh.
beer every year.
Another T-shirt right
your
there.
beer is
Yes.
grown.
Yeah.
Without farmers, what would
You
we
wouldn't
do?
have beer.
We wouldn't have beer.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
why
would,
I
it would
think
be a sad world.
And we live in Wisconsin, the home of farmers, right?
Well, Midwest. I mean, Midwest has got a lot to do with beer.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Believe it or
Milk,
not.
cheese, and beer.
Yeah.
I mean,
what
really.
a place to be.
I'm
Yeah.
a lactarian. I only eat foods based on milk.
Well,
Yeah.
there, if you put some lactose in your beer, you're set.
Oh, there you
My
go.
point exactly. The world's coming up Troy.
So back to the hops thing,
Yeah.
the wet hop
Yeah,
with Jared.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this year we're looking to supply Jared with enough wet hops so that we can produce multiple wet hop beers for this wet hop party. Jared, I don't know if you want to expand on kind of what your thoughts are and what
Is
that
the slogan "Get Wet"?
Oh,
Good.
my
It's
goodness.
like a wet T-shirt party, but
Yeah.
for beer.
But for
It's
beer.
a wet hop
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
Check out our wet cones.
Yeah.
We made this weird. Continue. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
I don't even know where to go with that, to be honest. I mean,
That's what happens when you give me a couple beers.
you have to understand. I want people to come here.
So
So I don't.
last week, Troy was comparing us to the Kardashians. This week,
Was I?
Yeah.
I don't remember half the things I said.
This week, it's making bad jokes about wet hops.
Yeah,
So
or cones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I don't discriminate or judge. I don't do that. So.
probably should at this point. But.
Yeah. Well.
we wouldn't judge you if you did.
No.
It's okay.
I always said I wouldn't join a club that would accept me. So it's
Right,
kind
yeah.
of. I mean,
Yeah.
Groucho
so,
Marx
yeah.
is that? Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not claiming it as my own. Just so you know. But
No, I make that same joke to the guys at Quick Trip.
Well,
every
isn't
week
it?
when they're trying to get me to join
It's
their
probably
rewards.
public domain by now. I mean, Groucho Marx died
God, I
a
would
long
hope
time
so,
ago.
right?
So
Yeah.
yeah.
otherwise, I'll just tell me where to mail the check, and I can do it. That's fine.
I literally say that same joke to the guys at Quick Trip when they try to get me to sign up for their
Yeah.
rewards cards. I'm like, guys,
Yeah.
I won't join your club.
Ah, man.
If you
Yeah.
accept me, it's not a club I want to be in. But, yeah.
So the wet hop party, you're doing some wet hop beers. There's before we get to that though, there is another beer that's coming up. So it's in May, right?
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah,
about
for
that
Cinco
one.
de Mayo, yeah.
Cinco de Mayo. Yeah.
So I was excited. Well, I was excited, for it last year, but then it wasn't.
I think everybody was
Yeah,
excited for
yeah,
Cinco de Mayo, and then it kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
What happened last
So-
year?
Yeah, I don't.
Geez,
yeah,
was
we don't
there
talk.
something that went on? I don't know.
Something we don't talk
anymore.
about.
I don't want to think about it anymore.
It's the year we
I think I
don't speak
forgot
of.
last year.
Yeah.
Did it happen?
It was on 2019 last year.
Yeah. it's-
Yeah, it was
I don't know.
definitely
I've
2019.
always enjoyed Cinco de Mayo, though. Who doesn't like a good Cinco?
Yeah.
You eat
Yeah.
some good
great.
Give me an
Mexican-style
excuse.
food, and you've got beer and margaritas and all the great things.
Like
salsa.
nachos.
There's just nothing bad about it. So
So
this year, and it fell on a Wednesday, which is awesome. Last year was technically on a Tuesday, which I thought,
Yeah.
Taco Tuesdays? Though.
yeah, what do we do?
Yeah.
But I'm not open on Tuesdays.
No,
I was like,
right.
Do we
Valid
open?
point.
What do we do? So.
Yep.
So it actually kind of really solved a lot of dilemmas I had for last year, so it's great. So this year we decided to do it. We partnered up with a local food truck, Bubbles Barbecue. Not sure if you guys are familiar with them.
Yeah.
They're awesome. So they also have the creamery right up the road.
Right.
And we're doing lots of different kind of collaborative things with them. So stuff that'll be coming in the future. We're looking at pizzas and things like that.
Awesome.
So we're excited about that, but also he'll be here for the Cinco de Mayo party, and then I've got 2 Mexican-style lagers in the tank right now, which I'm pretty excited about. I think those are going to be
They taste delicious.
Yeah. So
They're
I've got a lighter style one that's I used the New Zealand hop, and it gives it just this little bit of a lime kind of citrusy on the
yeah,
back end. It's
yeah.
really nice. I was hopeful on it. I to be fair, I didn't make that up. I read it somebody else, and I'm like, that's a great idea. I got to try this, versus just putting in like a lime zest or something like that. And it was actually pretty awesome.
It turned out great.
It worked
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah.
Where'd
So.
When you say lime zest, what's the process of zesting enough?
Well, I didn't
limes?
use lime
Yeah,
zest.
no,
I just used New Zealand. New
Oh,
Zealand style
gotcha. Gave you
hop.
that-
Yeah,
that-
that gave it the
okay,
flavor.
I'm with you, I'm with
And you
you.
don't have to worry about bitterness and different things like that.
Sure.
So, yeah. So that one I'm pretty excited about. So pretty light, easy drinking, refreshing beer. That's gonna be nice. And then I wanted one that was, maybe a little bit darker, kind of going toward that Vienna style, lager. And yeah.
People don't realize Mexico has a rich German beer history.
Oh, absolutely,
A lot of
yes.
Germans immigrated to
Yep.
that Central America area.
Yep.
I mean, you go to most Central America breweries are German breweries at their heart. Imperial or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So that's kind of what I went with.
How are you going to oxidize your beer for Cinco de Mayo? To give it that Corona vibe.
Well, I mean, I'll put it in clear bottles and set it outside for a couple days.
Get it some ultraviolet light on top of it, maybe.
If you get it up to about 90 to 100 degrees, it works out pretty good. You get a nice skunk in there. So,
Well, we'll pray for increasing temperatures before
yeah.
Cinco de Mayo.
I always have to get some heat lamps. We'll make it happen. So, but no, they are very much not at 90 degrees right now. They're lagering and they're very happy. And
Yeah.
so hopefully they will be ready by Cinco de Mayo. So, and then I've got, I don't even know if I should say it.
Yeah, I'd put it out there.
Yeah. So I know you guys can say it. There's seltzers. Everybody hates them. But here's the thing.
Just because we make fun of it doesn't mean
Yeah,
that we don't.
well-
I mean, we embrace all of it,
Yeah.
whether we agree with it or not.
Here's my theory on it. This is my theory on seltzer. So what I want to do is a margarita flavored seltzer.
Ooh,
I think that
nice.
would be fun. It would be
Yeah,
good for
yeah,
Cinco de
And
absolutely.
go
Mayo.
good with the Cinco de Mayo.
Sure.
and
Yeah,
It's
so,
great.
so that was my idea. That's kind of my tripping. And there's a there's a craft, there's an art to that as well, and I think
Yep.
there's a lot of, people think of the White Claws and the different seltzers right now that are, in my opinion, it's not something
Really commercial.
Yeah, it's
Real
commercial. I don't really enjoy them. They're not my thing, but there's people that obviously, I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar business, billion, I don't know, but it's big. And
Have you
but
been to Woodman's lately?
yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
it's
a lot.
everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't lie, right?
Right.
So, but what you have to understand is, I think there's a lot of places you can take seltzer to really make it kind of this artistic style, and really, I mean, just like
Craft
beer,
it.
you can
Craft
craft
it.
it. It
Well,
can be a
craft
craft
it.
seltzer, and I think, I mean, I'm not personally like totally against. I mean, it might not be my biggest thing, but here's the way I look at it: is if that allows someone to come in here that enjoys to drink beer with his wife, or his wife wants to come in here and drink great beer, and he likes seltzers or whatever the case is, that's what I want to be able to have. I want to
Yeah.
be able to have a place. Again, it goes back to my beer styles. I want a place where people can come in, and they can sit down, and they can bring their wife or their other significant other, and they can both enjoy
Right.
being here.
Yep.
They'll find something.
They're not making a compromise to be here.
And like,
That's what I want.
What we're seeing in seltzer data too is that like seltzers are obviously people that drink beer are now drinking seltzers, but there's also a lot of people who've not been drinkers who are starting to drink because seltzer is an approachable enough beverage for them. And if we can transition someone from a seltzer into a red lager or something, then if that's the transition you need, then let's provide or have breweries like you guys providing
And
that
it's
transition.
not that they wouldn't still drink all those things. It's just that they would have a greater appreciation for all of it, a wider
Yeah.
spectrum of things. Rather
You
than
just got to get them. They got to get them hooked. You
Yeah,
got to get
yeah,
them in the
yeah,
door.
Yeah.
That's half the battle. So.
Well, that's awesome.
So you
That's-
heard it here first.
Yeah.
So food,
Well, that's what we're doing.
food,
Some
some
awesome
Mexican
food.
Mexican
Food, Mexican
lagers.
beers, and a
Ooh.
seltzer. Yeah.
Should be a good time. If
And
you guys
then-
know a mariachi band, or you can play
I
some.
know a guy that plays an accordion.
Yeah. There you go. Well, that's sure.
I'm working on him for Oktoberfest. So,
Start practicing.
no.
So then the wet hop beers are coming later. You said you were saying in the fall.
I think, what did we do? We did that after Oktoberfest. So we did our Oktoberfest, and then that was, I think, Oktoberfest was September.
It's
and
pretty
then
close to the same time.
It was. They were like a week or two apart, and then I think it was the first week in October that we did
The wet
So that's
hop.
kind of what because they try to sneak it in. I mean, some of it. I mean, it really depends on when the hop's ready, right?
Right,
So you
right,
got that, and
right.
then we try to sneak it in as early as we can so that the weather's still decent and people can be outside.
You're not looking for a winter ale.
Yeah.
you're not-
Slash
snow on the
spring
ground.
ale
Yeah,
slash
yeah.
summer ale.
Spring ale.
Yeah. So look for that summer ale coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Summer spiced ale.
Summer spiced ale.
Spice is spice, man. Put it what time of season you want, right?
I don't follow rules.
You just have to change the menu name.
That's what I'm
Maybe
saying. I
that's
just gotta
it.
cross it
just,
off.
Yeah, just call it something else.
yeah.
Yeah.
People dig it.
I tried your spring spice. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's great.
I still got a crowler spring spice in my fridge. Yeah,
Hold on to it long enough, it'll be good in the summer.
yeah, no doubt.
Get the
Be a summer spice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
We are actually going to barrel age that beer for next year.
That's
Wow.
on. Well,
What
there
kind
you
of-
go.
what
That's
kind of
there's a
barrel?
first too.
Yeah, hey, we got some Jared. We'd grab some maple whiskey barrels. Okay, this is kind of cool.
Are they bourbon?
They're bourbon, yes, they are
yeah.
bourbon.
Whiskey.
So bourbon barrels from Skinny Sticks over in Marathon
Okay.
City. They're north of Marathon City. It's a veteran-owned maple syrup business, and he barrel ages on the bourbon barrels his maple syrup.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you
That
what,
sounds
it
amazing.
is great on
Yeah,
pancakes
no
and
doubt.
waffles. so I had gotten a hold of Mitch over there at Skinny Sticks and said, hey, can we get some barrels from you, some bourbon maple barrels? And so Jared ran over and grabbed some barrels. So we've got some barrel stuff coming.
Because as you know, barrels are, I mean, it's like everything right now. It's hard to get to, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
Right.
There used to be a time where they just threw barrels away.
yeah, they made tables out of them and cut them up into planters, right?
Yeah.
Now you can't.
Yeah, now you can't get 'em at all.
So I was really happy when he says, yeah, I mean, we do this and so he actually barrels these like every couple months. Like it's not just when the sap's running or whatever. He's doing this year round. And so it's like every, I don't know, I think he barrels every, like
3 to 4 months ish.
2 or 3 months or something. He says, yeah, and then he dumps, and then he says, yeah, I'll call you. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I ran down there and got a few barrels, and so once I can get those lagers out of the tanks, I can get some other stuff in there. But yeah, we really Tom and I talked about it, and we
some
thought
Christmas
that,
stuff.
that winter spice ale might be really nice.
that
in
would
there.
be amazing. Yeah.
There's like a guaranteed way to hook me into something. Put the word maple and barrel aged into
Yeah.
something. It's like, well, I mean,
And the nice thing is that it's local,
Yeah.
and you know it's a northern Wisconsin thing, and we're working with them with Skinny Sticks, and Jared being local, and you know hops local. If
Yeah,
we can, you know we're gonna try the best we can to make it as local as we can.
That's fantastic. One other thing about your hops, if anybody, are you just selling exclusively to Jared? And
Yeah, he's
his
not
place?
selling to anybody else but me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't contact him. It's not even going to be worth it.
So don't get a hold of Tom if you want hops.
So we
if
have
you
a
want
web.
hops and you want to learn more about them, call Tom. If you want to buy them,
Yeah, you want to help harvest, you can come help harvest. You want to use it, tough luck.
Yeah, I can give you some names of other people if you want. But
So we have a website. It is www.smalldoghops.com.
Okay.
So you can find us there, and you can find us on Facebook also at Small Dog Hops.
That's awesome.
And you can check out what we're doing. There's lots of videos and pictures.
Sure.
We like to make it as fun and informative as possible, and kind of show people what we're doing and follow along with us. And then come fall, when we brew some wet hop here with Jared, come in and check it out.
I think it's even better to know that there's an actual local grower in the Eau Claire area, you know, that people are unaware of. So that's great.
yeah, I mean, what are you, 10 miles down the road?
Yeah, we're not far.
So literally we
Fall
went.
Creek?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
literally we went and picked them last year.
And
The
the
smallest
next day,
I
Eau Claire
brought them here and I
suburb.
brewed the next day. So I mean, it doesn't get any fresher.
No,
than
it doesn't. Yeah.
it makes my mouth
Yeah.
water just
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, Jared, if somebody wanted to check out your brewery, you guys open to the public right now?
We are. Yep. We're open Wednesday through Sunday.
Okay, nice.
Regular business hours. We do have, I mean, we're at a limited capacity as far as tables. We have some, but I mean, it's a big space and it's pretty open, and we feel comfortable that when people feel comfortable when they come in, that they're well spaced out and that they're.
You do get a lot of
And
space.
you
in
have
front of
filtration system.
We
and
do.
and
that's where Tom comes in. So we wear many hats around here. When
Yes.
we talk
Yeah,
about
well, you
being
about
the
have to,
janitor
right?
and this and that. Tom, tell them about that. 'Cause
so this let's see, what was it, February-ish time frame?
probably
Somewhere in that.
it was damn cold when we put them in. I know that.
So winter time, right? And so we decided that so I work for Bartengale Mechanical,
Okay.
and
Yep.
and I do temperature controls for them, and we worked with Jared here to put in a bipolar ionizer. And what that does is it makes ions. You put it in the rooftop unit, the air handling
Yep.
unit,
Yep.
and what it does is it makes these ions that attach themselves to bacteria and viruses and dust. And what it does is it actually can kill the viruses and bacteria in the air and on surfaces, and it actually improves your air quality. So Jared does have them installed here in the brewery, and so that is another way to help minimize your risk
Right.
of any kind of sickness or disease transmissions
And
and that kind of
that's
stuff.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
he does have the ionizers here in the brewery.
Plus,
And
you have a nice space outside too.
Yeah.
Great outdoor
exactly.
space.
Yeah.
We just put up that pergola last year.
Right.
So
And it is
kinda
shaded
makes it nice.
pergola.
Yeah. Because it was pretty intense out there before that this summer. People would be out there 10 minutes. They're coming in. They're like, we're baking here. So, but yeah. So I mean, we got a nice outdoor space. We're always improving. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, we started really under the gun. I mean, just opening was a battle with the government shutdown and different. You know, every brewery's got a story about how they open, and it is what it is. But and then the shutdown, and you know the COVID shutdown. You know, so we had many different things that really kind of wanted to kick us down, but we kept going. And there's lots of things that we still want to do around here that we had planned and just haven't got to. But we will. We're getting there. Every
And-
day we're improving. Every day we're putting in new things. And so if you like us, or come on out and keep coming out, because things are going to get better.
And your family run, right? So it's either
Yeah.
you or Michelle or your daughter Sierra, or
That's
or a
correct.
combination of
Yeah.
the three that are behind the bar at
Yep.
any given time,
Yeah,
right?
my son Brevin, he's a little bashful yet. So
Yeah.
He's
Well,
out there
you know,
washing
no, you got-
kegs.
He
and
washes,
cleaning
but he's got
and-
important jobs.
He's
So
got
he
a great job.
Every keg that you drink out of, he's washed. So
So it's completely family run.
Yeah,
that's
and he
that's
helps
awesome.
me brew, and everything's great. I
That's
mean,
great.
It comes back to money. So I mean, I spent $800 on a keg washer that I built, versus $10,000 on a
Right.
keg washer. So
Yeah.
Brewing equipment gets so expensive.
yeah. So I mean, but the caveat to that is it's not efficient. I mean, it works well. I can make a very clean keg with it, but it's not efficient and it takes a long time to clean
But
kegs.
if the labor's free.
But the
Right.
labor is right on the money, right?
Thank
so,
you, Brevin.
Yeah. So that's where my son comes in. But
It's
you know,
like
he's graduating, going
You're
into the
essentially a
military.
farmer at that
Yeah.
point.
Oh, he's going to the military.
Free labor.
Yes. So he's going to be going off the basic, and so this is how it works. Is I also grew up kind of on a farm, a ranch. My dad had horses, and so we always did lots of hay and everything. And so he had a regular kicker baler, and you stacked it up on the trailer. Then when you're done, you take it over and you stack it in the barn, and you stack. And we had talk about acreage. He had acres of grass that I push mowed. And then, of course, when I leave the house, I was the last one to leave the house. He gets a riding lawnmower and a round baler. So,
Oh, of course. That's how
so
it works.
all he had
yeah.
to do is drop the bales. He goes out there with his tractor, picks them up, puts them on a thing. I'm like, seriously? Like, where was this when I was?
Oh, you had free labor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so now that Brevin's leaving, like, I have to look
You're
at
gonna have to get a keg washer.
Yeah,
Wash
Yeah.
the time.
I don't have time for this. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And you guys do all the social media too, Facebook and
Everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So find them on there. And then, of course, the best way to experience Ombibulous is just to come. Drink a beer here.
Yeah.
And, of course, come out for Cinco de Mayo and Oktoberfest. And
Wet
we
Hop
do-
Fest.
And we
Wet
do
Hop
have
Fest.
crawlers. So, I mean, if
Yeah.
people aren't comfortable with being in the tap room, we completely
come and get
understand
it
that. Come grab a crawler. It's fresh off the tap, and we'll send
Call
them out to
ahead.
you. Yeah.
Say, hey, I want these crawlers. Call ahead.
We'll get it
Have
done.
them ready for you.
yeah.
I might be at the hospital, and I'll have to call Sierra and let her know that she needs to fill it up. But we'll make it work.
You'll make it happen regardless. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
Thank you, gentlemen, for taking your time to talk
Yeah.
to us, too.
Hey, thanks for
it's-
having us.
It's been it's been a real pleasure. So
Keep making awesome beer, and we will keep drinking it.
absolutely.
Thanks for showing
Thank
up.
you everybody for listening, and we'll have more beer talk next week on the Taproom Takeover. Where are we going to be, you ask? I have no idea. Prost, everybody.
Thank you.